Hey everyone, welcome to Disrupt Your Day. I'm Petula, your host, and I'm super excited to have an amazing individual for season four, women's author, Voices from a Page. Her name is Margie. So let me tell you a little bit of goodness about Margie. She's a seasoned guide in self-discovery and transformation, specializing in wisdom, energy, and healing. She has experienced profound personal growth, shed old patterns, and is embracing empowerment. From once doubting her voice's impact to now embodying natural law's balance, she is committed to illuminating paths and catalyzing miracles for others. Hi there, welcome, Margie. How are you?
I'm doing great today. Thank you so much for the time and space and the opportunity to be here.
Absolutely. I'm very excited for you to share your story. From your the beginning and your transformation and everything in between.
I'm excited to share. So
Mm.
let's really start from what life used to look like and really how my
Yes.
life has transformed. So really early on in my life, I was pulled apart from the
Mm.
pieces of who I was. I really My mom has struggled with her own mental health journey in her
Mm.
life,
Mm.
and especially with that ability to take accountability. So it often left her in those roles that we see in the world, which is like
Mhm.
the perpetrator, the victim, the savior.
Mm.
My mother was very often in that perpetrator role in my life. And really early on, I became a scapegoat for a lot of the things that she didn't want to take accountability for. So I remember as early as the age of 4 years old being forced to look in the mirror and tell myself that I was a liar. And that would be
Oh
if
my
she
God.
didn't, yeah, that would be like if she didn't believe me. That would be like if my feelings, um, came up against what she wanted to believe. So very often I would be told I was a liar and that this is who I was, and or that's not how you feel. This is how you actually feel, and you're lying about it. And so often,
Oh my goodness.
not only was I told those things about myself, but I was forced to look and tell myself those things. So through the law of cause and effect, which I didn't know this at the time, but I do know this now.
Mm.
Um, our thoughts, our morals, our habits, our beliefs, they really create our external reality, and they
Mhm.
become belief systems that we operate inside of. So the more I
Mhm.
was told things about myself from this perpetrating energy, this bully-like
Mhm.
energy, the more I started to believe those things as I progressed in my, childhood and early adulthood. So
Yeah.
I believed that I was a liar, so I took that into action and I lied. I believed that I liked drama and chaos, so drama and chaos was always around me. I believed that I was the cause and source of pain, so I became the fixer, the savior, this like the went into that savior role because I really just
Mhm.
wanted to please everybody. I wanted everybody to like me. And so that people pleaser role and that positive projection role,
Mhm.
where I would be constantly negating anything that was heavy or dense, was something that I walked in for a long time. And I was really in a state of disconnection from myself because I didn't truly know myself or trust myself. And so that really took hold in my young adult life. Like there was so much chaos, there was so much discordant behaviors, there was a lot of self-destructive behaviors, there was a lot of judgment, particularly towards myself, but anything that we do to ourselves, we project out into the world. So that
Right.
even though I didn't want to believe I was a judgmental person, I was doing a lot of judgment, but it was really because I was holding so much for myself because of all
Mhm.
of these things I thought and believed about who I was. And so
Right.
in that place of disconnection, again, a lot of self-destructive behaviors. And I was in and out of therapy from an early age until I was around 18. And therapy made me really self-aware, like, I was really
Mhm.
able to analyze things,
Mhm.
but it still wasn't in a place of truth because I didn't even know what the truth was.
Right.
And it still wasn't in a place where it was teaching me tools to actually, like, get to that truth,
Mhm.
because I thought I was a liar and everything that I was saying was wrong anyway, and my
Mhm.
feelings were wrong, my thoughts were wrong, everything that I did was wrong. I didn't really take any of that in as true transformational healing work. And so in my early 20s, a friend of mine introduced me to Reiki, and I started getting energy medicine done on myself. And
Yes.
in those moments of starting to get energy medicine done on myself, the experience was great. There was a lot of release of energy, but I would frequently go back
Mm.
into old patterns, because there was no connection to those deep rooted places, because the Reiki was kind of like this relaxing passive healing experience with
Yeah.
with no connections made, no neural pathways lighting up in my brain of how to move forward for myself. So
Right.
I decided, because of all of these limiting beliefs that I didn't know were limiting beliefs at the time, but because of my want to learn so much
Mhm.
about myself, that learning about the modality of Reiki and learning the
Mhm.
theories and the science and the energy behind it was
Mhm.
really going to catalyze that transformation. So I started learning Reiki, and I went all the way up to my Reiki master, and that really made me like thirst and quench for knowledge, where I was just like on YouTube videos and reading books and taking classes and just
Right.
wanting to uncover so much. And until I found the community that I now, I both take classes with and teach classes for, and do a lot of things with. And I took a class about natural law. And
Yes, I'm
the first,
excited to hear about that. Yeah.
yeah, and this is really like that true igniting moment. Is I walked into, her name's Nikki, she's my mentor. I walked into Nikki's house. It was my first time walking in, and I was greeted by her dogs, and she had this beautiful bright kitchen, and there was crystals and books and sage and Palo Santo, like just smelling everywhere. And everyone who was coming in for the class was led into her redone basement, which was her studio space, to hold classes and healing sessions. And even down there, I just remember crystals and like oils around the room, and all these instruments, some that I'd seen before, some that I hadn't seen before. And I was so
Mhm.
intrigued and so excited, but also really
Yeah.
nervous, because that people
Right.
pleaser in me was like, oh my gosh, like, is everyone gonna like me in here? Like, that's the thought that's
Oh.
going in my head. Like, is everyone gonna like me? Is this like gonna be a good fit? What's gonna happen here? And in that class, I started to talk about natural law, and like what I had known about natural law before I walked into the door was very minimal, and it's basically what everyone else knows about natural law, which is law of attraction and manifestation. That's like the two biggest things that people know about.
The two key words.
Yeah, but those things, you actually need to have awareness of all of the other ways in which the universe works to be able to attract things into your life
Right.
with that law of attraction. And so there's so many other laws that go with it. And so they start talking about natural law, and how natural law is like pre-religion, Bon Po, how indigenous and ancient tribes worked in unison with the vibrations that lives in everything. And
Mhm.
so it's
Mm.
still how the trees work,
Mm.
how the ocean
Mm.
works, how the mountains work, how the horses work, how the elephants work, how the giraffes work. Like, it's really how everything in nature, aside from humans, still work. And I mean that nature as like everything here on this earth and everything above in the cosmos, because as above, so below, we're all connected in that way. And
Right.
so they started describing that natural law and how it really, moves in the world and moves in us. We just don't know. And
Say
the
that everything's energy. Is that what, like, it kind of like relating to it? Is it just about the energies that flow? Is that kind of what natural law is as well?
So natural law, that's part of it, because that's
Mhm.
the law of vibration. Everything that's living and breathing has its own
Right.
vibration. So we all move
Okay.
at our own vibration. So the trees have a vibration, the earth has a vibration, the stars have a vibration, the
Mhm.
birds have a vibration, and humans have a vibration too. But the interesting thing about humans is that where we're holding emotionally can dictate what our vibration is, because
Mm.
emotions are just energy, and what we resist will persist. So when we are not allowing our emotions to flow, right, that is where we're going to be sitting vibrationally. And so if we are in those heavy and dense places like
Yeah.
hate, anger, greed, and we're
Mhm.
fear, especially if we're standing and holding in those and not allowing
Yeah.
them to be information versus
Uh-huh.
now truth, then
What? Go ahead.
we are our vibration is heavy and dense. If we're
Okay.
holding in those places of lightness, which is like
Mm.
joy, gratitude, compassion,
Yeah.
unconditional love, that's a lighter place.
So what if you're not necessarily being negative, but you're processing feelings that you kind of need to let go, like, like you need to process and just get through it in order for you to move on from it.
It's interesting that you use the word negative because the law of polarity was the law that really like brought me in, and that's where we dispel that like labeling of negative and positive.
Yeah.
Because if you think of an atom, right? An atom which makes up everything in the entire universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
An atom doesn't just have negative or positive, right?
Hmm.
It has positive ions, it has negative ions.
Right.
And the only way that it can be balanced in that power, whether it's going to implode or explode, right, is to have a balance of both. So
Mm-hmm.
really the key is sitting in that middle and be
Yeah.
having the awareness of both to have the true power. And so that's why I tend to label things heavy or dense,
Yeah. Yeah.
light and dark, or flow and out of flow. Because if you can only the only way you know what light is
Mm.
because there's darkness, right? It's not about it, it completely negating the other side, right? That's where
Right.
positive and negative projection comes in. It's about integrating,
Okay.
right? So shadow work isn't about like getting rid of our shadow. It's about
Hmm.
integrating those parts of us for healing so that we
Mm.
can use those parts of us to help others heal. And
Right.
so in my life, where I was in a very positive projective place, that was hearing about that law was like, oh my gosh, I don't have to be up here all the time and then
Yeah.
crash down into this dark hole because this is not sustainable. Um, and so when you're talking about emotions, knowing that emotions are just energy, and it's okay to have fear, like it's okay to experience fear. It's okay to experience anger. It's the not sitting in it and getting stuck in the stories that emotion creates, right? Because typically what happens is we feel an emotion. Immediately that separate brain starts a story, a looping pattern, a trigger, right? So like say we feel fear and then we go into anxiety because we're in
Right.
this looping fear pattern, right? And
Hmm.
so if we don't we can just take in the emotion as that is really just allowing us to have information, right?
Hmm.
Allowing the energy to give us information. We don't have to agree with the thoughts that come in with the emotion.
Right. Hmm.
When we agree is typically when we stay stuck in the emotion instead of
Hmm.
processing it.
Okay. Yeah. 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 That's kind of what I was saying, but you broke it down so amazingly.
Yeah, I felt like that's what you were asking me to do. So if you if you don't take if you're take also if you're taking in the emotion and then you're judging it, right? That's the same thing as not processing it and going into the story. Because emotions are just energy in motion. If we stop the emotion from transmuting, if we
Hmm.
stop it from transforming, then it becomes stuck. If we judge it,
Hmm.
you cannot shift a heavy and dense energy with a heavy and dense energy, right?
Yeah.
So if you're trying to shift anger with
Hmm.
judgment,
Hmm.
you're staying rooted in that heavy and dense place. You can only shift anger with compassion, right?
Mm.
You shift
Yeah.
fear with compassion,
Hmm.
because compassion is not the suffering with, but it's the liberation of the suffering. True
Hmm.
compassion.
Hmm. Wow. I mean, I feel like I just had a like full on lesson. So once you
I am a teacher by nature, so it does happen.
no, it's amazing. I'm excited, and I'm sure the audiences will be excited as well to listen to this episode. So now you walked into this amazing experience. You started learning about law of cause and effects and the natural laws and all this beautiful stuff. How long did it take you from that time to now, like you're probably I think feel like we're always healing, right? But, to get to a point where you feel like you were healing, and good things were happening and you moving it, more on a higher vibration.
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we have those moments in time that are that we know that if we make this choice right now, we're going to transform, right? We have a free will to make that choice. And so in that moment where the law of polarity, which is really the one that pulled me in, like them talking about that was
Mhm.
like and right, even talking about it right now, I like the hair is sticking up on the back of my neck, and I felt like I saw that path forward, and I had to make the choice right then and there. Like, I'm going to continue on this path, or I'm going to run scared in another direction, because taking this path means that there's a lot of accountability that needs to be taken. Taking this path means a lot of work,
Work, yes,
because healing is not a destination. Healing is a forever journey,
it
because
is.
the more I go on that path, it's actually like the deeper I get to go into those caves and caverns of all of
Mhm.
that stuff that happened, all of
Yeah.
all of the trauma that's happened in my life, all of those belief systems that I've agreed to consciously or
Mhm.
unconsciously, that now I get to excavate and go deeper with. And every time I heal from
Nice.
something, the more I get to bring it to others. And so in that moment that I made the choice to say, yes, I'm going that way, I feel like that is when life started to change. I got
Hmm.
really, really much more serious about hands-on learning experiences
Mhm.
and really breaking down these belief systems that I hold. Because before this, I didn't realize all of these
Mhm.
false belief systems that I held. I didn't know all the patterns that existed. Like,
Wow.
I didn't know that I was in positive projection. I didn't know I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I thought that that was just like what a healer. I thought healers were supposed to be high and vibe, like, and like
Exactly.
happy all the time. Like, I thought that.
Woo! Yeah.
Right. And because that's a lot of times in society we're taught that, right? But that's not reality. That's not in balance with natural law. And so when I found that there was a way that I could both be a healer and be in balance and not have to be in this unsustainable place,
Mhm.
that choice felt really simple to make.
Yes.
Simple but not easy to take the road.
That's so funny that you said that because a lot of people look at healers and the gurus and the monks are like people that are already healed. And or
Ooh.
in order to, even like be like that or be at that, state, whatever, you have to be healed, but it's not. Like, for instance, what you said, it's a journey. That's like one of my mottos, right? It is a journey, it's a lifelong journey, but you have to continue to fuel yourself, right? Because it's, have you found it's easy to, not maybe easy is not the right word, but is it easy to just like fall back, like
At
triggers
this
maybe?
Yeah, at this point in my journey, no.
Okay.
It's not as easy to fall back. I feel like when I fall, it's very like my whole system gets shocked when I
Yeah.
go there. So that I don't go there though when it happens, because it does happen. Perfection does not exist. That's not real. I strive for that 80%, which was what Buddha strived for, right? And
Right.
realistically, like I'm probably like 65, 70, right? Because
Right.
I'm not Buddha. And
Right.
so
We all would like to be.
right. And so the thing that happens when you're on the journey is that when you have agreed to something, or when you notice that you're triggered, because triggers happen, it's what you do with the
All the
trigger,
time.
right? It's what happens. It's what happens. Do you practice the pause, or do you react inside of it, right? Practicing the pause is it's a practice. You have to stop and do something for yourself in that moment, so that you don't
Mm-hmm.
respond inside of the trigger, because that is when you're like swept up into the storm, and then you're spewing it out on other people.
Yes.
We don't want to cause harm as
Yeah.
healers or others. So like it's coming to that place of awareness with curiosity and compassion. Because if you judge yourself for not being fully healed, for still getting triggered, for sometimes having a bad day, right?
And that
You are not.
happens all the time.
Absolutely, it does. But if you
Yeah.
judge it, you're staying there. If you judge it, you're staying there.
Mhm.
If you judge it, you're judging others when they make a mistake or when they are triggered
Mhm.
by something. And so that and believe me, that still happens sometimes too. And you have to catch yourself when that happens, when you notice that
Yeah.
you've judged yourself for falling, right? But it's a
Mhm.
practice of staying conscious and curious because I used to go into those places all the time and judge myself when I would be like,
Right.
"Oh, you're supposed to be a healer. You're supposed to be this." But the truth of the matter is when you're on this journey, whether you're intentionally being doing healing work and energy work like I am, or you're you're a hairdresser, or you're a lawyer, or you're just someone in the world doing something that they love, whether you're an entrepreneur or a
Yeah.
podcast guest host or whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is in the world, whether you are calling yourself a healer or not, the more you come into those places of compassion for yourself and
Yeah.
more you have curiosity for your own healing, the more you bring it to everybody else around you.
Oh my
So
God, I love it. So can you share some personal ignite moments?
I feel like those happen so often. So
Oh my God.
yeah, so that first ignite moment I would say happened in learning that law of polarity. That was like my first ignite moment where I was like,
Mhm.
holy Toledo, everything in my life is going to change. And along the way, like I myself as a healer, healers need healing, healers need
Yeah, of
someone to
course.
hold the light to their blind spot. I have two mentors and a beautiful team of healers that I see every 4 weeks. I
Oh
see
man.
I get healing every 4 weeks and I am consistently in class, whether I'm teaching it or apprenticing or learning. Right? I'm always expanding the wisdom that I have, but it's real expanding the wisdom that I have is for myself and that allows
Right.
me to bring it and give it to others. So these ignite moments
Mhm.
happen in those spaces. They happen every time I'm on a healing table or every time I something really gets broken down in a class. For example, I had an experience last week that happened that really let me own a piece of my own healing, which I would say
Uh-huh.
those owning of our own healings is an ignition moment as well. So last week I had someone reach out to me and in a very aggressive and attacking way.
Oh.
They sent me a text message like accusing me of something that I didn't do.
Oh my goodness.
And I was in the middle of facilitating an all-day leadership training.
Mhm.
So I do leadership training. And so I had just happened to look at my phone and I was like, crap, I wish I didn't do that. I wish I didn't
Oh,
look at
right.
my
Because now
phone
it's like,
because now my system's kind of like shocked. I got triggered. And I was
Mhm.
like, okay, what I need to do in this moment for me is offer this person compassion and then reach out to my support so that I can be grounded for this day that I am going to be carrying out so that I stay rooted
Yeah.
for these people that I'm facilitating for. So I called one of my mentors and we talked about the trigger that I was experiencing. Bully energy is something that it triggers me a lot.
Yeah.
And witnessing harm because not only was bully energy something that has come into my field quite a bit,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
because of that sense of
Mhm.
self-preservation, when especially as a kid, I would go into like savior, like I want to save the bully because I didn't want them to be in pain and I knew that they were suffering because the only reason
Oh.
that someone is that carries that energy and is doing that is because they're in pain, right? But just because
Mhm.
someone's in pain doesn't give them the right
Do it back to someone.
to do it back to someone. It doesn't give them, it doesn't make it okay. So
Yeah.
in my offering of the compassion, I still let her know that her story was not true, that I didn't do what she was saying. And then
Yeah. I mean, you have to be in your own voice too.
I owned my voice, which is
Yeah.
a really big piece of my own healing journey. And
Yeah.
then I honored myself by allowing myself to be like, okay, I'm triggered right now. I need to get rerouted because I have a whole day to facilitate this leadership training. And I reached out to my mentor.
Mm.
She really helped me bring it in. And then later in the afternoon, I was debriefing with my mentor and she was like, I just want to let you know, like you handled that so well. And I want you to really see how far you've come in handling that type of energy. Like you're really moving in that third
Mhm.
choice. You're not trying to make the bully a sandwich, and you're not getting angry in that place of injustice. You offered compassion, then you utilized your support. And so,
Mm.
like, knowing that no matter how much work I do with that bully energy, that is going to be something that still triggers me. And so
Yeah.
every time I get to make a different choice, every time I, don't operate in one of those patterns that I've held, that for me is an ignition moment, because that means that the wisdom that I'm embodying, the wisdom
Yeah.
that I'm really taking it in, and I'm not just talking it, but I'm living it. And that's the true way to show up and hold space for others, is by doing it for yourself. Because even if you take in all this knowledge and it's just a
Yeah.
bunch of information that you are memorizing, when you're delivering it, it's not really authentic. You're doing that limiting belief of, like, do what I say and not what I do, right?
Mm.
But really, people learn by watching each other. Like, we learn by
Yeah.
observing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so if you're observing me carrying out the teachings that I'm teaching you, you're going to be much more apt to listen to me as a person of wisdom and a space holder who is actually embodying the things that I am telling you that you should be doing, or inviting you to try.
So, manifestation is a big word for everyone. Everybody's like, I want
Mhm.
to manifest the world, right? So everything, so just kind of like everything you unboxed, right? And shared, how does that all come together and how does it work with manifestation?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, so if you're thinking about all of natural laws, right, and we'll start with, like, the law of vibration, which I brought up earlier in this
Yeah.
conversation. So everyone holds a vibration, right? And where we're holding energetically has a direct correlation to what emotions we are suppressing. And so if we are in a space where we are mostly in that place of fear, we're in worry, we're in that place where, like, we believe that worry is a form of love, so we're constantly, doing all of that worst case scenario, right? And then every time something bad happens, the person in that fear and worry mind, they go, I knew that would happen, right? That right there is manifestation,
Oh.
because where our attention goes, energy flows, and then we attract more of it. So that's the law of attention working with the law of attraction, and the law of cause and effect working with all three of them, right? So if you shift your brain to move from worst case scenario and worry, and so from fear into optimal imagining. Optimal imagining is where you're thinking of the best case scenario. You're not saying that all of those bad things can't happen, but
Right.
instead of imagining all of those things are happening, we're
Yeah.
moving to that optimal, like the best case scenario for all those happening. That shift in your mindset helps to create that reality, because if you're looking at cause and effect, our thoughts,
Mhm.
our morals, our habits, our beliefs, our belief
Yeah.
systems, those affect how we're vibrating and moving through the world. They affect our external reality.
I
So,
loved how you explained it. Sorry, not to cut you off. That,
yeah,
when you think like the bad thoughts and it just happens and more cute comes, that you're manifesting that in your life because that's what you're thinking. So we
correct.
don't think about that when it's happening, right? So yeah.
Yeah, so in the thing about vibration and attraction and manifestation is, we don't attract what we want, we attract what we are. So we really have to make sure we're aligning our actions
Mhm.
to help us create a space for those things that we're calling in. Because if we are holding in heavy and dense energy, and we're trying to attract all of this highlight frequency, right? We're trying to attract
Mhm.
all of these things into our lives. If we're holding in that heavy and dense place of fear, worry, doubt, anger, greed,
Mhm.
hate, all of those heavy and dense
Mhm.
things, right? If that light energy comes in and we haven't shifted out of that heavy and dense place, as quickly as it comes in, it goes out.
Oh wow.
Or we won't appreciate it, because we'll just be looking for the next thing, because we're not actually in a place of gratitude. We're in a place of heavy and dense.
Hmm.
So
Oh my God,
so
I love
where
it.
constantly co-creating with the universe. We just don't recognize it as such because we're looking at these visions and we're saying,
Yeah.
"Give me $1 million," and then we're not taking any action towards getting that $1 million because we can't actually attract and manifest anything if we're not aligning our actions to create the space for it.
Exactly. Oh my god. I love it. Well, this is so amazing. I'm loving everything you're sharing. So, let's talk about Ignite Humanity, your amazing book that's coming out in November.
Yeah, so I was asked by a publishing company called Ignite You to join their Ignite Humanity book project. So I have written a chapter for that
Hmm.
book in Ignite Humanity. So it is the first time I have written that's being published in a big book. I have a couple of things that are out on Amazon. I have a couple of workbooks that are out on Amazon, and I've been published in a couple of magazines, but this will be my first book that I'm being published in.
Oh
And
my
so
god, amazing.
yeah, so this Ignite Humanity book is going to have 288 authors, which is going to be in the Guinness World Book of World Records for most co-authors.
Oh my
And
god.
yeah, and then after the big book gets released, it's being broken down into subsections. So my story is going to be in the Raising the Global Consciousness section of Ignite Humanity. I'm extremely excited about this first step towards like writing my own book. Because
Yes.
I have a lot to share and a lot of transformation to share and a lot of
You
wisdom to share
do.
and I can't wait to be able to share those with other people because I think that the most transcendent thing we can do once we've gone through healing is to share those stories with others
Oh,
because
yes.
it allows other people to connect and not from a place of trauma bond, but from a place of like, if I can get through it, you can get through it. It gives that hope
Yeah,
to humanity that if one person can liberate, then so can they.
I love it. So, how do you keep balance and maintain being grounded for yourself while you're creating and you're in, around so many other energies and healing others? And I know you kind of touched on like you have your ongoing healing energy, your mentor appointments and, such. But how do you, like daily maybe stay grounded and balanced for yourself?
Yeah, for me, it's all about staying in rhythmic practices. So I set my intentions to be in flow every morning and then I align my words, deeds, and actions to match up with that. So I do a bioscalar meditation, which is scalar energy is the energy that Nikola Tesla was researching. And he found that energy moves much like lightning bolts through all living and breathing things. And we have the ability to harness that energy. And Dr. Valerie Hunt, who has passed now, but she spent her life researching how we activate that energy in our own field because we
Hmm.
are living and breathing things. And so I do a bioscalar activation, I do breath work, I do rhythmic walking, I read, I really like to learn. So
Yeah.
learning is a form of connection for me if I'm learning things that are
Mhm.
really rooted in that place of connection. Um, Doing things like riding. I have a I'm in my office right now, so I have a bike in here that I will ride with some rhythmic
Mm.
music. So
Yeah.
the music I listen to is typically very connected flow. I call it flow music because it's really
Mm.
connected into that space of rhythm. Um, and so I do yoga. I play with my kids. I like to laugh.
Oh.
And so I'm really intentional about those things, but
Yeah.
it's gonna be different what everyone in their lives is gonna do
Yes.
for their rhythmic practices, right? So like my husband, he likes to go on meditative walks. He wants to move his body while he's meditating.
Yeah.
He wants to go off for a ride on his motorcycle and connect to the wind in that way.
Mm.
But doing it with intention.
I
I have
love it.
I have a friend who really likes to hula hoop and jump on a trampoline, and she does that attached with rhythmic music. So like
Oh, that's
really,
amazing.
yeah, finding the practices that work for you is really a self exploration, and there's so many that you can
Maybe.
do. It's just doing it with that intention to stay grounded.
Yeah, I would say intention and what feels good to you. Don't um just say, oh, I have to work out or I have to do this, I have to do that. It's like, feel what makes you feel good. For me, it's walking with my puppy every day. I like try to like map out at least 3 times a day because I unplug if I'm like only working from home, on the electronics, on the computer, on the screen. I try to break away intentionally to go out with him 3 times and just walk and, out in nature and stuff like that. So, and, I love doing yoga too, but I don't necessarily get to go just to do it. I mean, with him, I try to do it, my puppy, but he wants to do it too. I would have to actually go to a studio, but yeah. Well, this has been so amazing. Thank you. So before we leave, I wanted to ask you, so if if you could tell something to your younger self, so what I did for my book, which is called A Love Letter to Me, I had asked 40 women to write a love letter to their younger selves. And, their letters were incredible, just a healing journey from when they were small, through adolescence to, one woman, she's 50 years old and she's just like loving life, and she went through, like we all, something happened, put in the work and, is going through her healing and still healing. So for you, what would you say to someone listening to the podcast, whether it be an adolescent girl, a teenager, or a woman who's like still dealing with things that you've learned, like what would be something that you can share as a lesson or that they could take away?
Mm. Hmm.
I know, right? I just put you on
I
the
really
spot.
no, no, I really love the question. I just want to really make sure that I'm
Yeah,
tapping in here. And
sure.
I feel like the most important thing that I could share with anyone who might be, just on that precipice of like getting on this journey themselves,
Yeah.
or, maybe they've started and they're in this place of like, what now?
Yes, yes, yes.
Is truly don't compare your journey to the person standing next to you.
Mhm.
Um, take their journey as
Mm.
lessons and take their journey and don't compare where you are to where that person is, because you're going to get your healing and your wisdom's going to ignite in your own time. And the moment that you put yourself in that place of hierarchy, or you put yourself in that place of like, well, I must not be as good as them because they're farther
Mm.
along, or you know what are they doing that I'm not. The moment that you go into that place, you're really disconnected from compassion. And so
Mm.
staying in that place of compassion is truly what I wish I knew in my younger years, is that compassion doesn't have shame and blame in it. Um,
Mm.
accountability doesn't come with, or true accountability, like compassionate accountability, doesn't come with shame and blame. It
Mhm.
comes with kindness, and
Yeah.
it comes with liberation.
Mm.
Because to set something free, we have to be aware of it. Now, if we
Yeah.
judge the thing that we're aware of, we're not going to want to become aware of it.
Yeah. We're
And
gonna
so
store it away.
right, because we're judging it.
Yeah.
And that I think, if I knew that earlier on,
Mhm.
would have shifted the way that I moved in the world. And
Yeah.
so for anyone listening, really don't compare your road to the road that's next to you, because
Mhm.
it's all your perspective. It's all your
Yeah.
journey. And so it's all relative to where you are, and
Mhm.
you have the free will of where that road's going to go. You get to create
Yes.
it.
Yeah. Be your own creator and writer of your own journey, right?
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. I so appreciate you. all of Margie's information will be in description where you can contact her if you guys need some healing when her book comes out in November or just a conversation. I'm sure she'll be open to talking to people as well. So anything to do to with her, all her information will be in the description. Do not forget to subscribe. Um, that's how we're going to grow, and that's how we'll continue to bring you guys amazing stories like this. And I appreciate everyone for tuning in, and thank you so much. Have a great day, and hopefully, we disrupt your day in a good way.
And thank you so much again for the time and space. It
Of
was really an honor to be on
course.
your podcast.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, this was amazing. So thank you. Bye, everyone.